Hey, how's it going, everybody? James here for Paint Games and Cardboard, and welcome to my very first deck tech. I was very excited to do this. I couldn't stop thinking about it since I first announced the channel was relaunching. And for the very first video, bear with me because I'm kind of in a new area trying to figure out how things are going to work with lighting and positioning and everything. But for the first deck that I wanted to cover, I wanted to cover my favorite deck, the deck that I've probably spent the most amount of time putting into. It's not my most expensive deck, but it's by far my most favorite. And so happy to announce we're going to talk about Yoshimaru. So ever faithful, probably looks. Yeah, it's backwards on the camera, at least from my angle. And Kediss. And a lot of people ask why I pair these two together. And as part of this deck tech, we'll talk about that. So this is a Boros Aggro Voltron deck. It is, I call it Legendary Tribal. The goal is to play as many legendaries as humanly possible in these two colors that also kind of mesh with the theme of Voltron. So you'll see a lot of my choices are probably a little unconventional. I've taken many hours scrubbing over EDH rec and moxfield, finding other options and kind of tweaking. This is probably like my 9th or 10th iteration of this deck. And there's a few things from Outlaws of Thunder Junction that I really want to add to this. So obviously, if you guys are watching this after Outlaws, the deck will change. However, check down below. I'll have the Moxfield link that I keep up to date. And I also have a premiere for this deck as well. Because, again, it's one of my favorite decks. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty, folks, so here we are in the deck tech for the Yoshi deck. So first, let's cover the commanders, Yoshimaru and Kediss. So apologize, trying to figure out distance from the camera to read these. So we got our two commanders, Yoshimaru. Whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, get a +1/+1 counter on it. And then our partner, which is whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. Now, one thing to note, and again, a lot of people ask me why this partner combination, because a lot of people like to pair up Jessica, which Jessica is in here, by the way. I found Yoshimaru dies a lot, all the time. And so as opposed to just trying to kill one opponent and then immediately losing the game because everybody just keeps removing the dog, Kediss gives me an alternate play pattern, also allows me to kill the whole table. If I'm going to be arch enemy, might as well be arch enemy and try to kill everyone. Now, one thing to note, this deck is incredibly fast, incredibly aggressive. So do not take this to like Commander Precon Day or anything like that, because generally speaking, they're not going to have enough removal to deal with it. Now, we're going to start, so I've kind of piled things up. I've got creatures, support, and Voltron pieces. So we'll start with the creatures. So we've got Skrelv. Skrelv's really good. Just allows. Oh, see, it's really hard to read these. Skrelv allows a lot of both my commanders to be basically untargetable to certain colors, so that's really good. And he's legendary. We got a Ragavan. And one thing to note, I do have a few proxies in here. I don't think any of the creatures in here are proxies. Because I am a firm believer in buy one of every card and then proxy in other decks if you need to. So, Ragavan, A, being the fact that he is a legendary creature, but also B, the fact that he makes us more treasure tokens, and as well we can play stuff off our opponent's decks, can sometimes come in handy, but a one-cost legendary monkey pirate that always needs to be removed is always a good thing. Codsworth, so this is a new one that I've added from the Fallout decks. So really good because he gives us 2 mana to spend on aura and equipment spells. Oh, I got a piece of paper in there. And then our commanders will have ward too, which also is really good. And then we can attach aura equipment. So he's just a very good piece to have in the deck. Have yet to get him on the table, but you know, happens. Rorus, God of Victory, so this will give both of our creatures menace, and then also prevents all of the, all of our creatures get menace, and then prevents all combat damage, so we can just kind of keep swinging freely and forcing blocks. Lae'zel gives us additional +1/+1 counters, she's also legendary. Esper Sentinel, this is my proxy one. I mean, Esper Sentinel just goes in pretty much every white deck, so yeah, so he's in this deck. Kari Zev. So Kari Zev in this deck is really good. I know she's like a 30-cent card, but she's a legendary creature that then makes 2/1 legendary Ragavans. So kind of your goal is to swing this at whoever has only one blocker so she doesn't die, just to make the monkey to get Yoshi to be bigger. Because, you know, every time they come in, Yoshi will get bigger and bigger and bigger. Really, really good. Lauren of the Third Path, so this is one of my removal pieces, but also it allows me an extra card draw. This deck does run out of cards incredibly quickly, so you do kind of need to kind of keep drawing stuff. I've had games where I'm just kind of top decking because people have killed the dog so much or have removed my board so much. Becomes a sad day, but Lauren is really good at just kind of keeping up with other opponents and getting us more cards. Boromir is really good in this deck. Gives our doggo indestructible or lizard, depending on how you're doing. And then also we get to counter free spells. So Boromir is really good because it just means people have to keep mana up and actually cast stuff to remove doggo whenever they need to. Kellet's really good. Just gives us additional 1/1 counters on dog every time he swings. Lelia. So Lelia is really good because it's additional card draw. I mean, it's impulse draw because you have to play it that turn. But also she gets bigger with 1/1 counters, and she has haste, and she's legendary. So she adds a lot of things to doggo that we're kind of missing. The fact that we can just get impulse draw, which will allow us to play more and more cards, and if anything, get through our deck in. Because there's not really any critical pieces in this deck that like you have to play whenever they come out. So getting through the deck quicker and getting deeper is always a good thing. Runetails. So this is a really, really cool card from the old school Kamigawa. When you play it, immediately it flips, and so you get a legendary enchantment that prevents all combat damage, or all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. So really, really good card for 3 mana. Just pretty much, hey, you can't kill me, my creatures now with any sort of damage. So. Gimli of the Glittering Cave. So this is a new one that I've added. Main reason, he's a double striker that gets bigger every time another legendary enters the battlefield. So he's basically Yoshimaru with double strike. And then on top of it, you get to create a treasure token every time he deals combat damage. So he's another target. Oh, did my laptop shut off? Sorry. First time doing this with this new laptop. But he's another target for all the Voltron pieces to kind of snag onto, and then does a lot of damage, gets us more, treasure, which allows us to play more spells, which is really good. Rayev, Master Smith, creatures that are equipped get double strike, so, is what it is. Bruce Tarl. Bruce Tarl is very good with doggo. He could also be a partner if that's the route you choose, but when it re-enters the battlefield or attacks, target creature you control gains double strike and lifelink. So really good with dog, especially when you have Kediss out, because now the double strike lifelink triggers for every single opponent that you hit, so which is awesome. Norn the Wary. So Norn the Wary, if you've never seen this guy, he's hilarious. Whenever a player plays a spell or a creature attacks, remove him from the game and then return him back to play. So, pretty much every turn he's going to be blinking in and out of play, making doggo bigger. So, an amazing, amazing card. Usually you want to play him immediately the turn after you get dog on the field, and just watch as dog becomes like a 10-10 by turn 3. And then Mary, Esquire of Rohan. So this is another draw piece. Pretty much if you attack with Mary and another legendary creature, which pretty much all the creatures in this deck are legendary for the most part, you're going to draw a card. So more card draw because, like I said, we kind of run out. And then the last creature, this is I just upgraded to a shiny foil version. Pure Steel Paladin, because us being a Voltron deck, well, we want to equip stuff for free. So those are all of the creatures for the deck. And then that's kind of like the basis. So usually the play pattern is turn 1, we play doggo. Turn 2, you try to go for lizard, but usually you're going to have another creature that you want to get into play, like Ragavan or Karizev or something like that. You'll play those out, and then doggo is just going to be like maybe a 3/3 at that point. And then usually by turn 3 or turn 4, you're in lethal range of at least one opponent, sometimes multiple opponents, and so dog gets really ridiculous really, really fast. So for the support pieces in this deck, so we got land tax, because, oh, sorry. I wonder if I could just change the mode. I'm going to try changing the mode of the light and see. if it cuts down on the glare. Nope, that makes the glare worse. That makes the glare worse. That makes the glare worse. Glare worse. It's these sleeves right here that are making them really shiny. Okay. Alright, we'll try there. So, oh, here, I'll tilt them to the side. Haha, that way you guys can read. So land tax. Land tax is good in this deck just because I have found sometimes that I'll run out of lands. This is a very low land count deck. I think there's like 32 in here. So land tax helps with that. At least I can fish out all my basics and always have a land to play or stuff to discard if that's the case. So we have the obligatory swords in here, and we'll get it out of the way. Path to Exile, so, you know, might as well remove some stuff. Steel Shaper's Gift, because this card is amazing in any equipment deck, and you know what? It only costs 1, so let's go find some equipment. Flawless Maneuver. I really like this card. It's like one of the cheaper free spells, but, you know, I'm always going to have my commanders on the field, and making them indestructible, especially during board wipes, is like critical for me. This deck is really, really susceptible, like I said, to removal. Usually all of the removal is saved for Dog every time he comes out, so I've had games where I've had to play him upwards of 5 times. And I'll kind of explain that at the end of the video, kind of how I get around that. Relic of Legends, because most of this stuff in this deck is legendary. Having a mana rock that taps everything for more mana is never a bad thing. Archangel Elspeth. So I've recently added a few planeswalkers to this deck, and this is one of the ones I chose. Main reason, her second ability, put 2/1/1 counters on target creature. It becomes an angel and gains flying. So who doesn't like an angelic flying doggo? So that's the main reason this is in the deck. Sometimes, because everything is really cheap in the deck, you could just keep pumping out soldiers to kind of stabilize, and then pop her to get all of your stuff back from your graveyard, which that is an incredibly powerful ability. Don't ever discount that. Gamble, just because sometimes, you know, you got to go find something. Boros Charm, because indestructible is really good. Also, you know, the 4 damage to target player can sometimes remove someone. Now, this is one of my favorite cards in the deck, Fighter's Class. So when it enters the battlefield, search your library for an equipment, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So it's functionally Steel Shaper's Gift. However, if you upgrade it to level 2, equip abilities cost 2 less to activate. So that means almost all of the equipment abilities in here are free if you can get to the second, which, again, free equipping is really, really, really good. And then you can upgrade it again whenever a creature you control attacks. Up to 1 target creature blocks this combat if able. I don't really like going up to level 3. Really, it's here for level 1 and level 2. So. And then I have Palantir of Orthanc. So this is a way to scry deeper into my deck, draw additional cards, and then, you know, sometimes when people make me mill, I'll do more damage. But this kind of feeds into some of the other cards in there if they want to mill and get some stuff in my graveyard. It can feed into other play patterns. Sigarda's Aid. Pretty self-explanatory. All your ores and equipment are going to have flash, and then when they enter the battlefield, you immediately get to equip them. So, you know, kind of a must-have for equipment decks in general. This is my proxy to Fury's Protection. The real one's in a different deck, and it's Japanese. So, but, you know, it's good to have an out if somebody's going to combo out, or if somebody's going to try to remove you in some weird way. So, yeah, just that way we don't die. Soul Ring, you know, I had to have somewhere to put this Fallout Soul Ring. But, yeah, you know, it's a Soul Ring. Alright, Mirror of Galadriel. So this is a legendary artifact, but also it scries 1, then you draw a card, and costs 1 cheaper for each legendary creature you control. So as you can imagine, this gets down to like 1 mana pretty quickly, and it pretty much reads as tap 1, scry 1, draw a card. Which is really, really good in a deck that kind of struggles sometimes with drawing cards. Now, granted, when somebody wipes your board, it is what it is, but, you know, you can restabilize, play both your commanders, and then this is already down to 3, and you kind of keep going that way. The One Ring, you know, because it's legendary, and it draws its cards, so Doggo needs a ring. Alright, so then we got Enlightened Tutor in here. So this is also another way to find additional equipment or enchantments. That way we can get them to the top of our deck. Again, it's pretty much like another Steel Shaper's Gift. This is another new one from Fallout Inventory Management. So Split Second, which is really good, breaking up combos or, you know, responding to removal. For each ore and equipment you control, you may attach it to a creature you control. So this is really, really good if I try to go attach boots to Doggo, and then somebody tries to remove Doggo, then I inventory management, and then go ahead and do it again. So unless somebody else has more removal, Doggo is going to get like Lightning Greaves, and then Doggo will do Doggo things. And then last but not least, Stroke of Midnight, because having additional removal for non-land permanents, enchantments and things is always a good thing. Always having the option in your deck, and it's something that I firmly believe in, always having the option to respond to someone else's things, even if there's only a few, because I think this deck only runs like 3 pieces of removal, period. Because the goal of this deck is to play or remove, but sometimes you do have to remove a problematic thing to stop someone else from winning. That's primarily there. Now on to the Voltron pieces. So as you can see, the Voltron pieces are a huge chunk of the deck. I think between the creatures and the removal, I mean it's slightly bigger, but a big chunk of the deck is going to be the Voltron pieces. And these are in no particular order, so I've mixed the enchantments with the equipment as well. So we got Eater of Virtue. This is actually a really terrible piece of equipment, but it costs 1, equips for 1, and gives our doggo +2, and it's a legendary, so that's why it's in the deck. I'll probably swap that with the new Jitte from Thunder Junction. Bitterthorn, Nissa's Animus. So this is a way to get additional lands out into play. It's also a legendary equipment. Rarely will we equip this to Doggo, only when we get like mass land wipe or mass wiped or anything would we start equipping this, or if I can make it cheaper or free. Because +1/+1's like whatever, but it's functionally another Sword of the Animus, you know, which is down here. So I have Sword of the Animus and Bitterthorn in here because they're both legendary. They both fetch us out more lands, so really, really good. Then we have Sword of Light and Shadow. So I do have additional swords. However, I kind of kept the ones that I like in this deck. The gaining the 3 life and then returning 1 target creature from my graveyard to my hand is really, really good because everything in here dies pretty quickly. I don't have anything beefy. But the Pro White is probably the biggest thing because swords and Path are probably 2 of the biggest things that I worry about with this deck. Tarion Soul Cleaver. So this was from the Lost Caverns, and this was a legendary equipment that costs 1, 2 to equip. Gives our doggo vigilance, but then the big thing is whenever another artifact or creature is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on equipped creature. So if we're facing a Dockside Extortionist or somebody who likes to sack a lot of tokens, it just kind of feeds into doggo becoming a big problem very, 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 very quickly. So, which I love. Oh, this was another creature. Hope of Girapor, so legendary Thopter, only costs 1, but then you can also show off somebody playing spells. So let me put that over in the creatures. Luxior, Giada's Gift. So legendary equipment. As you see, I only have a couple Planeswalkers. I haven't gotten to the second one. The other one's in here. Yeah, so we're not really going to equip it. I mean, we might because it's +1/+1 for each counter. But the big thing is legendary equipment costs 1. So gets out there and really, really good. We got the Jitte, because you know what? Legendary equipment, and the Jitte is really good. Hammer of Nazan. So this is a way to kind of give our doggo indestructible and make him a little bit bigger as well. And it's a free equipment. It's the same reason I have Mithril Code in here as well. So kind of two ways. You know, this one flashes, but this one doesn't. So, but I like both of them. Basilisk Collar. I had to swap it out for the fancy, you know, Fallout art, but Death Touch and Lifelink, which is really good on Doggo. I've already explained the combo where if Doggo and Lizard are both out and you hit somebody, you gain that much life based on how much damage it deals to all the opponents. Really awesome. We got Sticky Fingers, so this is a way to give Doggo menace, and then also whenever you hit somebody, create a treasure token. And Doggo's eventually going to die, but this is really, really, really good. And then dealt combat damage to a player. I wonder if this triggers with Kediss. Dealt combat damage to a player. Combat damage. Huh. No, because combat damage would then trigger the commander damage. So never mind. You would only make 1. I was like, oh, does that trigger 3 times? I never thought of that. So, Sword of Fire and Ice. So this is probably my favorite sword, and the main reason is draw a card. So drawing additional cards is really good. These also, I forgot to mention, with the pros on the swords, it pretty much makes whoever I equip them to unblockable for that game. which is it's kind of key sometimes to killing people. Guild Artisan, whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, you create create 2 treasure tokens. So a way to create even more treasures, because Doggo's always going to be swinging, so we're always going to target whoever. Good old Lightning Greaves with the Doggo art. I don't own the actual Secret Lair one, so I had to buy a proxy one. Noble Heritage. Commander creatures you control, you own, have, when this creature enters the battlefield or at the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 1/1 counters on a creature they control. For each opponent who does, you gain protection from that player until your next turn. So, this makes Doggo ridiculously huge very, very quickly, because I'm just going to add 2 counters to Doggo each of my turns, or Lizard, or whoever becomes my Voltron target. And then usually most people will go ahead and take the 2 1/1 counters, and then just kind of ignore me. But yeah, sometimes they regret that pretty quickly. So really, really good. And it's legendary enchantment as well. If you haven't noticed, almost all of these have been legendary. Good old Jessica, tripling up the damage. Also, the cool thing of her being in the deck is by the time I draw her, usually I've had to replay my commanders like 2 each. So she'll come in with 4 counters, which is really good. Which means I can actually use her bottom ability to do up to 4 damage to 3 targets, which is awesome, including players. So sometimes it can be player removal. And remember how I said sometimes people milling me is positive for me? Mantle of the Ancients. So when this comes into the battlefield, you get to attach all of the equipment and ores from your graveyard to 1 creature, and then it gets 1/1 for each of those. So if people want to keep milling me out, well, as long as Mantle of the Ancients is still in my deck somewhere, there's still hope, guys. We can still wreck somebody. This is also another new ad, Brass's Tunnel Grinder. So it's a legendary artifact that does functionally what Valakut Awakening does. When it comes into the battlefield, you can discard as many any number of cards, then draw that many cards. And then if at the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, I put a counter on this, and once it gets 3 or more counters, it flips. It never really flips, but usually I use this as a way to flush out my hand and get better cards. Mox Amber, additional mana, and it's legendary. Trailblazers Boots, so making creatures unblockable. We got Ozolith, because Ozolith goes in pretty much anything where your commander getting counters is a really big thing, or counter theme. Shadow Spear, I think this is pretty much the best equipment in the entire game. One cost legendary that also makes me get trample and lifelink. Doggo needs trample to do his thing. We got some Swiftfoot Boots, because more untargetable is always good. Flowering of the White Tree. Legendary creatures you control get +2/+1 and have ward 1, and non-legendary creatures you control get 1/1. So functionally this is +2/+1 for my whole field. Get ward 1, and it's legendary. This is an amazing card in this deck. I love this card, so auto include. Blackblade Reforged, so this is also another auto include, 1/1 for each land you control, and it only costs 3 to equip. My goal is to get this down to 1 or 0 and equip it to Doggo, and usually that's lethal for somebody if I can get that on. Reaver Cleaver, so again, another way to get trampled, but also whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, create that many treasure tokens. That's a lot of treasures. And last but not least, we got Griffs Boon. Gives Doggo flying, +1/+0, and we can keep popping this back into our hand from the graveyard. So really good. Giving Doggo wings is always a great thing. For the basic lands, or I guess dual lands, basic lands. So you'll notice I got Plaza of Heroes in here because there's a lot of legendaries in this deck. I've got all of the normal like dual type lands, Command Tower, Sacred Foundry, Arid Mesa, Fabled Passage. I actually kind of want to take out of the deck, but I'm waiting for like them to print something else that I want to swap in. You'll notice that I think all of the lands in this deck, none of them come into the battlefield tapped. So it's a really big deal for this deck to go fast as humanly possible, get everything pumped out in the field, and just start swinging. And then these are the rest of the lands. So I took a lot of time to find all of the legendary lands that will work with this deck and have colors that match this deck. Now, I did have Core Haven in here before I found out that it was it's illegal. Oh, it's not not focusing right now. But before I found it was illegal. But yeah, I took that out and swapped it out. So we start with Miko Koro. Reason this one's in here is each player drawing a card. Again, this deck sometimes struggles with draw, so really good one. The Grey Havens, this was from Lord of the Rings. Scrying 1 when it comes into the battlefield is really good, and add 1 mana of any color among the legendary creatures in your graveyard. So this is usually a colored mana at some point in the game, so I don't treat it as a colorless. Iganjo, Seat of the Empire. So I actually have both Iganjos in here, Iganjo Castle and Seat of the Empire. Usually the play pattern is you're going to want to try to play one of your basic lands first turn to get Doggo out. And then from then on, you're going to want to be tossing out legendary lands as long as Doggo's on the field to just keep giving him counters. So rarely do I ever use any of the alternate abilities. Yeah, usually they're literally here just to trigger the pretty much landfall on Yoshimaru. So we got Sokenzin, Crucible of Defiance, because why not? Mines of Moria. This is also a really good one because you exile 3 cards to create 2 treasures. So sometimes that might come in. And this usually will enter untapped. Because, again, this will be in my turn 2 play. 9 times out of 10. Flagstones of Tro. This is a really, really bad land, but it's white and it's legendary. So, 2 of the things I like. God's Eye, another legendary land for colorless, and the rest of the text doesn't really matter. Shinka, the Bloodsoaked Keep. So I actually like this one for its secondary ability, giving first strike. So sometimes that can be handy on Doggo if you don't have any of your ways of preventing damage or anything like that. Hall of Heliod's. We do have a few enchantments, so sometimes the bottom might come up, but usually it's just because it's a legendary land. Hammerheim. So this is a Legends land that taps for red, if you did not know, but it's a legendary land. So the bottom part can remove all land walking ability from target creature, but that never really happens. So Minas Tirith. So I really like the ability to draw cards off of this, but again, it's white and legendary. We got Keep. Sometimes you gotta make some kobolds, but it's legendary. And Shiving Gorge, which you will literally never ever do the bottom part, but it's a legendary land. And that's Doggo. So Doggo. So like I said, I would kind of cover a few other things about the deck, but we'll do that in the outro, and I'll go back to my phone that has slightly better video quality. So stay tuned. So thank you guys so much for watching this very first Tech here on Deck Tech here on Paint Games and Cardboard. Yoshimaru is probably my favorite commander. Definitely my favorite commander. That's why I wanted to cover it first. It's my baby, I guess you could say. Every time I bring it out, it brings a smile to my face. Very rarely am I hyper disappointed in the deck. Usually it's when people just keep blowing me out over and over again. But like I said, it is not a deck to be taken lightly. You can have some extremely explosive opening hands. I've had games where Yoshimaru is a 5/5 on turn 1, just because that's kind of how the deck lined up. I either got like the Mox Amber and Soul Ring in the hand, along with some sort of other equipment. And generally speaking, if that happens and nobody has removal by like turn 3, you've probably already won the game. And usually you'll close it out turn 4 if that does happen. So you won't win on turn 3. This is definitely not a CDH deck. It can feel that way sometimes. But yeah, so it's super fun though. It's super fun because everybody's always trying to be like, block the dog. But you're always going to swing at the person. Oh, they just played a mana dork. Let's see if they'll trade the mana dork. Oh, you just played your commander. Let's see if you'll trade your commander for the dog. Excuse me. And usually I try to rotate around the table. That way I'm not just picking on one player. When I initially built the deck, I would kind of just pick on one player to wipe them out. And then that was always kind of feels bad because you take somebody out super quick and then it's you versus 2 others. Whereas kind of sometimes you want that buffer from another player because maybe they board wipe and that helps you or something like that. So now pros of the deck. Very fast, very fun, very Voltron-y. It's definitely a Voltron-y deck, and you get to play with a dog. Now, the negatives of the deck are you are very prone to removal, like I said, and so generally speaking, if I have to recast dog, at least if I'm on the 3rd cast, I'm going to start actually using Lizard Kediss
as actually my primary target for most things to build him up and then try to go for the kill that way. This deck does try to win through commander damage with Yoshimaru, but Kediss is like a good backup. I've had times where people just keep removing the dog, and after like the third time, then I just start equipping everything to Kediss because there's only so much removal in the game, and if everybody's using the single target removal on Yoshimaru, then Kediss eventually will become a problem as well. Nothing's funnier than equipping, Griffs Boon on a lizard with like 2 swords and some boots and some other things, a helmet, and he just goes ham and just kills everybody. That actually happened the other day where everybody thought they were safe, and then I was like, nope, I'm just gonna move over here and equip everything over to and actually I tried to kill people with Pure Steel Paladin one time too, but then they removed him. So it's just a really funny deck. It's Voltron. It's a more flexible Voltron deck. That's probably the best way to put it. So but if you like aggro, you like Voltron, maybe give it a try. You don't have to buy the expensive versions of some of the cards that I bought. It's just my baby, so I just slowly upgrade over time, and see somebody with a foil Pure Steel Paladin, gotta have it, right? So but anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Please stay tuned for other videos and other deck techs covering my other decks. I've got 21 of them right now, so that I guess I have some content for a while. So thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.